Palantir is a front for the Mossad. And I'm going to let you in on a little inside baseball. It's not going to take you long to look for this stuff. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli intelligence, they're recruiting Israelis out of high school and college. They enlist them in Unit 8200, their intelligence outfit, and they sent them to America to start tech startups. Do you know this? There was a major initiative in the 2000s and the 2010s. The Israeli cyber intelligence outfit was recruiting young Israelis and sending them as intelligence officers, as spies, to create startups in America, to create tech startups in Silicon Valley. They're all over this stuff. And, you know, a lot of them are Jewish. Joe Lonsdale, Sean McGuire, Jacob Hellberg. These guys are all very pro-Israel, very Jewish, very powerful in Silicon Valley. And probably they're involved in some kind of spy ring that's being run out of Stanford, that's being run out of Silicon Valley. Israel has completely penetrated Silicon Valley. You do not understand this. Israel and Israeli intelligence has totally penetrated Silicon Valley. Sean McGuire, who seems like a nice guy, but he's a board member at Sequoia. Sequoia is one of the top venture capital firms. That means they provide the startup capital for all of these super powerful and big Silicon Valley startups that became powerful and big. Sean McGuire has an Israeli wife and Israeli kids and is a super Zionist on Twitter.
All right.
Jacob Hellberg was the right-hand man to some of the most powerful people in tech, to Alex Karp, to Keith Raboy, who's at Facebook. Jacob Hellberg gave a huge contribution to Trump last year. He's all over the pro-Israel cause. These are just a couple of examples. Silicon Valley from top to bottom is penetrated by Israeli intelligence. And guess what else? Where does Silicon Valley recruit from? Where does Silicon Valley have its research labs? Well, schools like Stanford, Columbia, Harvard, Yale. The Ivy League universities, almost all of them now have Jewish presidents. Some of them, like Columbia, 25% of the student body is Jewish. And what is the White House trying to do right now? They're bringing in the Department of Education to force universities like Harvard and Columbia to police anti-Semitism, to teach pro-Israel curriculum in their Middle East Studies department. Silicon Valley is in bed with academia. The White House is punishing academia for not being Jewish and pro-Israel enough. And Silicon Valley is infiltrated by Israel. And what else does Silicon Valley and the universities do? Silicon Valley gets enormous contracts from the U.S. intelligence agencies, from the CIA, from the NSA, from federal law enforcement. And the research universities, the labs at MIT, at the Ivy League schools, they get contracts. They do the research too. And increasingly, they're doing this for the military as well. What do you think SpaceX does? What's the market for satellites? A big application of SpaceX satellites, you know, the rocket launches that put satellites in the atmosphere, is the Department of Defense putting our Star Shield into outer space. Palantir is now one of the top 10 most valuable tech companies. They exclusively contract with intelligence and law enforcement agencies. And the list goes on and on like this.
And the main issue with everything that Nick has said, every single one of these tech startups, whatever they invent, whatever Palantir, drones, satellites, everything is going to be used to control you, to have leverage over you. That is the main issue. Forget about the money. Money is just numbers on a screen. They can print money out of thin air through debt and all that stuff. They want to control you and me and Nick and everyone else. As in, they want to know everything about us 24/7, and they want to have leverage over us. So we vote the way they want to vote. We do things the way they want to do things. It's just controlling the enormous hordes of population. And it's gonna get worse because Palantir is using the West Bank as a training ground for facial recognition at every single corner in the West Bank, in Israel as well. They are using Palantir to pretty much spy on everyone. And guess what? That's coming to your city as well at some point. And it's going to be legal because it's not going to be the government doing it. It's going to be a private company that's owned by the government.
Silicon Valley on the West Coast, the Ivy Leagues in the Northeast, Wall Street in New York City, and increasingly in Miami. And the government contracts coming out of Virginia, coming out of Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C.
Langley.
They're all in bed like this. They're all inextricably connected. When we say the elite, when we say the deep state, that's what we're referring to. That is your elite society. And J.D. Vance is at the intersection of all of it.
Yep.
You know, Trump, when he ran in 2024, he got $270 million from Elon Musk, Silicon Valley. He got $200 million from Tim Mellon, a banker. He got $100 and some million from Miriam Adelson, Israel lobby. He got millions from Bill Ackman, Wall Street, millions from Jacob Hellberg, Silicon Valley. Trump is the elite's candidate. Trump was the elite's candidate, and the elite is Jewish oligarchs. Israeli intelligence penetrated Jewish oligarchy. From top to bottom. From BlackRock with Larry Fink and the hedge funds, which are all controlled by Jews, to the Ivy League universities, where I believe 6 out of 8 of them have Jewish presidents. The DOJ is coming down on them. The Department of Ed is coming down on them because they're not pro-Israel, Jewish enough. Silicon Valley, the most powerful movers there. From Founders Fund with Joe Lonsdale to Sequoia to you name it, Palantir. It's all Israeli intelligence. They sent them out there to penetrate, to infiltrate. And they increasingly are dominating the DOD defense contracts. They're filling up the National Security Council. They're taking control of the procurement process. Trump was a vessel. Trump branded himself in 2024 as the vengeance of MAGA and America First and mass deportations. In reality, he was the regime candidate. He was the candidate of Wall Street and Silicon Valley, of Israeli intelligence, of the Jewish oligarchs, of the World Jewish Congress. And ultimately, he is sort of an inconvenience. He is a vessel. He is a booster rocket. The payload is Vance. Vance was an artificial creation of Peter Thiel, of Elon Musk, of David Sachs, of the CIA, the American Enterprise Institute, of Netflix and CNN. And in 2028 or before, when he is crowned the president, he is going to bring the New World Order to the fore. Why is no one talking about this? With Rubio, they're going to tell you mass deportations. Then they review 50 million visa applications and look at their Twitter and see if they criticized Israel. They run on frat bro uprising. Then they deploy an anti-Semitism police force to Colombia to make sure no one protests against Israel. They say, we're going to get to the bottom of all of these conspiracies. Then they bury the Epstein files a day before Netanyahu makes his 3rd visit to the White House after they bombed Iran. They bring in Doge to cut the deficit, fail miserably. Doge leaves, and who stays? Palantir. Suddenly, the Social Security Administration, the Treasury Department, the Education Department, the IRS, it's all going into the Palantir database, which is a cutout for the Mossad. Are you getting it yet? They're invading Gaza. They're getting ready for another war with Iran. They're disarming Hezbollah in Lebanon. The president of Syria is an Israeli spy. They're getting ready to annex the West Bank. They're sacrificing the red heifers. Are you starting to understand this yet?
And I'm pretty sure Israel is going to use a lot of that leverage that they have on politics, Silicon Valley, universities, colleges, whatever, in New York, Miami, you name it, the American Northwest. They will use that as leverage against the politicians. If there will rise someone from the American people, let's say a politician, but he's not going to be pro-Israel, they will try through all these tools to coerce him and to have leverage against him if he has maybe some skeletons in the closet, some shady stuff that he did or say in the past as well. Israel is going to control that. So even if someone arises that's going to be a true patriot, truly American first, Israel will have that influence over them through all these tools and all these connections in the deep state.
7 months in, think about how much anti-Israel speech has been curtailed.
A lot.
Between the war on the universities, the FEMA regulation, the Health and Human Services announcement, the bills that are being passed in Congress, the advocacy of the DOJ, burying the Epstein files. Think about everything that's been done in 7 months.
A lot.
Okay, the White House is occupied by Israel. So if the White House gets more powerful, that's not a good thing. These people are not on our side. Rubio and Vance are not on our side. Yoram Hazony is their biggest cheerleader. That should be your first indication. Yoram Hazony is a Jewish nationalist. He is a fan of Meir Kahane, who said that all Gentiles should be enslaved or killed. Yoram Hazony is that guy's cheerleader, and he's an enthusiastic backer of J.D. Vance and runs in the same network with Peter Thiel.
Ew.
This is who we're dealing with. Is that a good thing that this guy will inherit the unified executive with the full weight of AI-enhanced Silicon Valley? No, it's terrifying. And is anyone else talking about this? You have a huge contingent on Twitter that is defending it. They're clearly involved in it. And that's Milo, that's Tucker Carlson, that is the Bronze Age Pervert Network, that is Lomez, Jonathan Keeperman at Passage Press. That's that whole crew. And then you have a lot of other people that simply do not or will not talk about it for one reason or another. You know, and look, I like Andrew Tate, I like Alex Jones, but they're fans of Vance. Candace Owens refuses to talk about it. Why is no one talking about this? This is terrifying. Palantir is a front for the Mossad.
And it's going to get worse and worse and worse as we are going to see how they surveil us, and it's going to be illegal, and it's just like, who cares? If you are going to tweet the wrong thing, you're going to Facebook share the wrong meme, say the wrong stuff on your YouTube channel or Twitch stream or whatever, not only are you going to get banned, you're going to end up in some detention center somewhere. And it's going to be done by AI. So you don't have to be reported by an actual human, because it's going to be AI doing the reporting. And they're going to knock on your door. And they don't have to do it a million times. They have to do it enough times so that people know to keep their mouths shut.
If you criticize Israel, you can't have a visa?
No.
Is that something we're comfortable with?
America first.
And this is on top of the entire student body population of America. Because the Department of Education is waging a war on Harvard and Columbia, cracking down on anti-Semitic speech. The DOJ says that burning an Israeli flag is now a form of discrimination. It's a hate crime. Think about the slow creep now. If you are an American student or an American visa holder or a naturalized citizen, criticizing Israel has effectively been criminalized. They brought TikTok back, and the condition is they ban criticism of Israel. If you burn an Israeli flag, that's considered a hate crime. Washington, D.C. is controlled by Homeland Security. Do you think they would tolerate a protest against Israel? So it's like every American campus, the nation's capital. These are all no-go zones for anti-Israel protests. The entire student body of America's universities and colleges, every American visa holder or naturalized citizen, they cannot criticize Israel.
Nope.
Criticism of Israel is increasingly not tolerated on TikTok and other social platforms.
Why?
FEMA, a couple of weeks ago, said a municipality, a city, a state cannot get disaster relief if they've engaged in a boycott of Israel. Are we comfortable with this? It seems like we are, for a third time, reconstituting our country. And now what it means to be an American is the usual stuff, but also you have to support Israel. And by the way, this is a playbook that was created by the Heritage Foundation. A few years ago, the Heritage Foundation commissioned a program. It was called Project Esther. You can look it up. Project Esther. This came out, I believe, in 2024. And what it said is that they're going to get a Republican president elected. And once a Republican is in office, that Republican president will use a public and private partnership. They will mobilize the full weight of government, including anti-terrorism law, immigration law, cybersecurity law, every domain of law to go after what they called Hamas support networks. Anyone that is sympathetic to Palestine and critical of Israel.
So you will have your feed flooded with insane amounts of violence and evil that comes out of the Strip and the West Bank. And if you say anything about it, well, guess what? Account suspended. Yeah, it's gonna get spicy.